Is public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? There being none, we'll proceed to a review of the minutes for July 18th, 2018. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes as presented. There any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And all opposed? Motion's carried. Next item is a common victualers license hearing for 310 High Street. Scott Sargent doing business as Scott Dog Mobile Vendor. Is Mr. Sargent or his representative in the hall? Okay, if you would step up to one of the microphones. Sit down, if you would. And just tell us your name and address.
My name is Scott Sargent, and I live at 122 Grove Street here in Clinton.
Yep, okay.
And I just want to open my business, Scott Dog, at 310 High Street.
Okay. Can you tell us any more about it?
I plan to have like my hours of operation be somewhere around 11 at night when most other food places are closed until about 1 in the morning when like the Nitro guys are having their breaks and everything because their only other option is really McDonald's. So I figure that's a good niche to fit in.
Okay. Is there anyone here other than Mr. Sargent to speak in favor of this proposal? Do you want to come up, ma'am? Tell us your name and address.
Hi, Deborah Sargent, 55 Silver Road, Lancaster, Mass.
How do you do? What would you like to say? What would you like to tell us?
Scotch great.
Okay.
We have all the cookies from the landlord, Mark, at 310 High Street. I own the Sunshine Cafe.
Uh-huh.
This is my son.
Okay. Anyone else? There being no one, is there anyone here to speak against this application? There appears to be none. What's the pleasure of the board? Any questions by members of the board?
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, I have no relation to Scott Sargent, so I want to be able to vote. You know.
Very good. Anything else by the Board of Selectmen?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say something that I intend to support the request for a license, but I'd like to make it clear that it's subject to any modification or adjustment, especially in the hours that the police department would like to impose, given that the applicant's market time is late in the evening, not just nightclubs, but other people out too. So I just want to make it clear that the police chief will have a final say in when you're open.
Absolutely.
Anything else from any members of the board? There being none, I'll close the public hearing and...
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the common vic license. Second, Mr. Collins' endorsements.
Second?
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve the license with the caveat that the police chief will get to advise and make changes in the hours of operation as he deems necessary. There any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion's carried. Congratulations and good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Best of luck.
Next item on the agenda is the Superintendent of Schools, Steve Meyer, and he's here to give us a back-to-schools update. Welcome, Superintendent.
Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I just figured, it's getting ready for the school year. I figured I'd come and just give you a little update and talk about a few different items, sort of remind everyone that school's starting. In terms of our facilities this year, the buildings are looking great. The director of facilities is working hard with our head custodians, and I think that we've been not only able to get the regular cleaning done, but also get some more maintenance and repair done in the buildings as well. Some additional rooms painted, other things taken care of. We did have a mold issue at Clinton High School. Many schools across the state had mold issues this year. It's just sort of the nature of the way the chilling units work in those buildings, and with the combination of the the hot, humid weather and all the rain. So we did have to have that professionally remediated. We have filed an insurance claim. You know, we're pretty confident that most of the costs will be covered by the insurance claim, but once again, Director of Facilities has been great handling that, working with the adjuster, and it's been really beneficial having him on board, able to take the lead with that, so I could kind of still focus on a lot of the instructional work we need to get done to get the year going. On another note, the Massachusetts School Building Authority will be visiting the Clinton Middle School on September 12th. If you remember last year, I think I came to you because we did an application for the core repair program, basically to hopefully look into getting a renovation of the middle school completed and try to get our name in the pipeline. So this is the next step in that process. So we were moved forward from the initial application to the site visit. So still not a guarantee, there's still a long way to go, but it's a good sign. So we'll see how that site visit goes, and I'll make sure we get you an update. In terms of our staff, we're starting to see a lot of staff coming back to the buildings. Today was our first day of new teacher orientation. They do 2 days of new teacher orientation. We have about 10 new teachers this year. We still have a couple positions we're working on filling, a couple instructional assistant positions and a couple support staff positions, but all our classroom teachers are on board at this point. And our next day of teacher orientation is tomorrow. We've also been running a curriculum boot camp this week, where we had grades 5 and 6 our grade 5 and 6 teachers came in yesterday, 2, 3, and 4 today, and pre-KK and 1 tomorrow. And what we're really doing is just looking at the standards. There's been a lot of revisions to the standards over the past couple years, making sure that we know exactly, focusing really on what we're supposed to be teaching students, and then trying to work on developing more common unit plans so that we're collaborating together to really look at the best way to educate our students, consistency, with some level of consistency across each classroom. I think for years our teachers have worked incredibly hard because they've had to do a lot of work in isolation, and I think that what we're trying to do is bring them together, and hoping that by collaborating we're able to get a better product and sort of a better standard of consistency across all our classrooms, so it's not as individually driven based on what teacher you get. In terms of the students and parents, we had the buildings open today for parents and students. Buildings are open from, we had 3:30, we started off with the freshman orientation at the high school. From 4 to 5, we had all the buildings open. Parents and students were able to come into the buildings and get their schedules and walk around and check out their classrooms. And the PTA does this like student supplies kits that they can order. They were able to pick those up today. It was a great turnout. I was able to go to all 3 schools, and a lot of parents were really appreciative that we gave that opportunity for them to come and just walk around the building with their kids and just check out the classrooms. And we couldn't force the teachers to be there today, but a lot of them showed up, and it was a nice turnout, and I think it was a nice positive way to kind of get the energy going for the new year. We were supposed to have a cookout to go along with it, which I canceled yesterday based on the forecast, and then obviously at like 3 o'clock today it became the nicest day of the summer. So. We also then had our athletic registration night tonight. That was at 6 o'clock at the high school. Our new athletic director, John Smith, put that together. It was a great opportunity just to kind of run through, there's a lot that goes into athletics these days with concussion policies and chemical health policies and a lot of those types of things. So it was a great way to just sort of share all that information with the students and the parents. And then they kind of broke off into sports-specific meetings with the coaches so they could talk about, practices and team rules and those types of things. We have moved to a lot more online registration process, and so we're not trying to just track down paperwork all season. Just a reminder that we did eliminate athletic fees this year, try to see if we could increase more student participation, and it seemed like that's now that people are starting realizing that that's real. It seems like we're starting to get some more numbers, but we'll try to track those in the next couple of days as the sports all start. We start to look at the numbers. We'll try to see what kind of impact that might have had, and continue it this year throughout the year, because the other place where we might see that is students who might elect to play 2 or 3 sports who typically might have only played 1 because that was their favorite one and that's the only one they wanted to pay for. And just a reminder that our first day of school is August 29th for grades 1 to 12 and September 4th for pre-K and K. So I think I'm excited to get the new year started. It was great to see some of the kids back today, roaming the halls, and I think we're gonna have a great year, and just wanted to come and give you guys a little update. I don't know if you have any questions for me or any comments.
Any questions by members of the board?
I do. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to, Doctor, thank you very much for coming in to updating us, so that's a new addition. It's good, but I want to compliment the school system in hiring John Smith as an athletic director. He's going to do a great job. He's put his heart and soul into it, so I thought that was great, thank you.
Doctor, a couple questions on the upcoming year. I know, refresh my memory, was it the fourth grade that moved back to the elementary, or vice
Yeah, so the
versa?
fourth grade is, I guess, staying in the elementary, right? So the third graders that went to fourth grade will just stay in the elementary.
How long ago was that? Was that last year
No,
or
so that's
this year?
for this upcoming year.
Okay.
Yeah. That was part of why we wanted to have that the buildings open and everything, so people could come see the classrooms, because we did have to move some things around with that. So, even if you were in the elementary school for the last, however many years you were a third grader last year, you think you know the lay of the land. Some of the rooms have kind of moved
Right,
now, so
right.
we wanted to give an opportunity for people to come and just explore.
And then the other one I had, the other question was the population among the three buildings, school buildings. Do you see a surge in certain classes? Like, is there a lot of kids coming in the elementary or more going into the high school?
Our largest grades right now are currently in grades 5 and 6.
Okay.
For whatever reason, those have just kind of been bubble grades that have been going through the system.
Okay.
As I mentioned, I think when we talked about the fourth grade moving, I don't know if those bubble grades were part of the reason why the fourth grade went to the middle school in the first place, because they were kind of required some extra sections, and now that they're in the middle school, it makes sense to make the room in the middle school by putting the fourth grade back down. Our kindergarten class is at 160, which is a little bit bigger than our other classes. But we did add an 8th section at the end of the budget season last year, because we were starting to anticipate those numbers. So our numbers still should be good for that.
Okay, so you don't foresee that you know of, I mean,
We don't
another
see a
class?
huge, surge.
Gotcha.
The 5th and 6th grade are up to like 185, maybe. Those types of numbers. Our typical class, say, is 150. So, there's, like I said, the kindergarten being 160. That's a little bit bigger, but
Right.
it's not, not crazy.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. That's all I had, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I don't have any questions. I just want to applaud the superintendent for being here tonight with the presentation. It speaks highly of you, the school department, and trying to maintain a connection with the town. I think it's a great effort on your part. And I also wanted to applaud the school department and the school committee for voting to do away with that athletic fees and making the program open to everybody. I think that's a great move on the school committee.
I guess
Thank
thank you for helping us with our teacher negotiations, which we do now finally, after many months, have a hopefully a tentative memorandum of agreement that hopefully will get ratified once the teachers are able to get back, and we can get the school committee meeting on Monday. So hoping that goes smoothly. So we got that contract underway. I think it was very, very amicable negotiations, and I think we stayed within the parameters that would be consistent with similar other contracts in the town.
Yeah, on that topic, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to say that I wanted to applaud your team and the teachers bargaining unit team. I participated in more than a couple of these negotiations, and that was one of the most professional discussions of that type I've ever been a part of. Nobody gave anything away, and everybody bargained hard, and they advocated for their positions, but it was not it was a very professional operation from the beginning to the end, both on the school department side and the CTA side.
Took a little longer than we wanted, but at least we got it done.
Mr. Kerrigan?
Yeah, I'll pile on. Thank you for coming. I have two kids, and one of them's excited. I think the other one's just more pumped out that summer's over, but he'll come around. So, yeah, thanks. We're looking forward to a great year.
Thank you.
I just have two questions. I'll give you an opportunity to say, when exactly does school start?
So it's Wednesday, the 29th, for grades 1 through 12. And then it's Tuesday the 4th, the Tuesday right after Labor Day, for pre-K and K.
Okay. And I'm just out of curiosity, you were talking about the curriculum boot camp.
Yeah.
And it sounded like the work was being done in the elementary and middle schools.
Yep.
Just out of curiosity, why is the high school not included?
I think what it comes down to is there's more specialization once you kind of hit 7th grade on. So you have, more of a department kind of content focused base, and there's some department chair type leadership at those grade levels to kind of fill some of that void throughout the
Curriculum
year
void, okay.
and throughout the previous years. At the elementary school, where you have more of that broad, every 3rd grade teacher should basically be doing the same thing. And there really hasn't been necessarily as much opportunities for that formal kind of collaboration and leadership previously. We just really tried to start there. I do think that, if we can, it's a process, and I think
Yes.
we'll probably expand as we go through, just to make sure that what we're doing at the younger grades feeds up nicely into the older grades.
Okay, wonderful. And I would like to join my fellow board members in thanking you, not only for coming tonight and talking to us about the back-to-school update and the other things you've done, but in particular to say that I believe that I have noticed under your superintendency an increased coordination with the town side of government and an increased cooperation with the town side of government, and I would like to particularly thank you for that. Michael reports to us that that is the case, and certainly we congratulate him for his role in that, but I think it's only good for the town that we all work together, and I think you've been a great leader.
I think
in that.
working with Mike has been great, Mr. Ward, and he's always available, and we can reach out and touch base. And I know he and I are in those situations where we don't have a whole lot of other colleagues necessarily. So a lot of times being able to connect and talk through some situations has been great. So I think working together with the town, that's what we got to do. I mean, we're one town, and we got to just kind of be as solid as we can.
Okay, that's it? Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And good luck in the new coming school year. And
Thank you.
thank you for your efforts. Next item on the agenda is a recreational marijuana proposal for 843 Main Street, being presented by Attila Simon of Emerald City Incorporated. Is that Attila?
It's Attila, but that's actually my husband. I'm going to speak for us tonight.
Okay.
That's all right. I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm Carol Simon. This is my business partner, Ann Franco. Attila Simon, John Franco, Dalton Simon, and Blake Simon. I just wanted to introduce
How do
all
you
of our
do?
board members. We're requesting a letter of no opposition with regard to a cannabis cultivation establishment at 843 Main Street. After careful consideration and research regarding the laws and zoning requirements, we have determined this to be an ideal site for this business. My husband Attila and myself have owned this property since 1989. We also own the adjacent property at 835 Main Street since 2005. The permit is for cultivation and packaging for wholesale only. All operations will be contained within the commercial building. The building is within the buffer zone. All security procedures, including lighting, fencing, gates, alarms, and additional devices approved by the Cannabis Control Commission will be in place. The hours of operation will be 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The building has adequate interior space to safely accommodate all activities. The grow area will be between 500 and up to 5,000 square feet, no larger, and this qualifies for a Tier 2 cultivating license. No on-site consumption, no signage unless you require it. We have enclosed a list of the owners of the Emerald City Growers, if anyone would like that.
Of who?
It's called Emerald City Growers Incorporated.
Oh, all right.
We just recently got that incorporation.
Okay.
We feel fortunate to have this business opportunity in the progressive Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And our goal as we expand is to hire local veterans and to pursue renewable energy. We have already looked into that extensively. Our next step is to continue this operation is to proceed with the state. And we thank you for your consideration.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board?
I just have one question. 843 Main Street, was that the address that got raided by the Drug Task Force a few months ago?
It is. We were operating, my husband's father's company was L&M Precision Sheet Metal. When his father passed away, MTM Precision Sheet Metal took over, so the sheet metal company was there for 26 years. We rented the building to Lavity Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, a legitimate company. We had them checked, we checked references, we had a lawyer draw up our lease with them. It was a 5-year lease. We had no knowledge that they were conducting any type of business but a legitimate heating and plumbing supply company. They were storing equipment within the building is what we were told. We received a notice from the federal government for a subpoena on about the 30th of October. They had raided the building, I believe, on the 16th or 17th of October. My mother had passed away the night before, so we were not looking at the news, had absolutely no knowledge of this whatsoever. My husband and I have owned the property for almost 30 years. We come in 4 times a year to pay the property taxes in person for both properties. We know a lot of you guys in here. We were completely dumbfounded and flabbergasted. Everything was removed from the property. Since then, the Board of Economics has been sending us people with this exact same request, and we felt that if anyone was going to rent or lease the building from us again, it should be us. So we're trying to separate ourselves as the owners and as the business people now. We feel that we've been completely duped and do not really trust anything. As you can imagine, it does have a stigma that now goes with the building, and we feel that it is restricted on who would be able to rent or lease it to. And as we are grateful that the town has now approved it, everything would be done up and up, but we had absolutely no knowledge whatsoever, which I know everyone here believed that to be true. We never entered the building after we signed the lease with the people. There was no notice, we had absolutely no knowledge. We sent the lease agreement to, all the authorities, they understood that that's what happened. So it's a very ironic situation that we find ourselves in today.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say that I'm going to make the suggestion that we take request under advisement, but before I'd be willing to vote in any way on this matter, I'd want to see a lot more documentation from the applicant. I'd like to see resumes on the background of all the partners, a more comprehensive plan of how you'd intend to manage security and access to the facility. I want to see it all spelled out before. The town only has so many of these to give out, and I'd be very hesitant to give one out without an awful lot of backup and an awful lot of substantiation, and we're going to want to see recommendations from the police department, the fire department, and the public safety department.
As you can imagine, it's a very secured building because nobody knew apparently what was happening within the building. It is an extremely secured building. It seems that it is exactly suitable for this situation. We never heard from any neighbors that anybody knew or knew that anything that was happening within the building or suspected that anything was happening, including ourselves. We had gone to the parking lot several times they were there for 17 months. Never suspected anything. There's very little access to the building. There's very little windows. It's a completely sealed, secured facility. There's almost no entrance and exit except for right off of Main Street, which would be very visible to anyone. We have gone to the police station, asked them to patrol as often as possible since this has happened. The building is 100% secure. We have alarms in place and such right now, but we would of course step that up as well. And it would only be for cultivating purposes. We would not be distributing. There would be no on-site consumption. It would be, and we do own the property next door, which I think is a big benefit to us that we're not surrounded by anyone else as well. We do have list of our board members' addresses. We are completely 100% self-sustaining. We don't need any investors. There'd be nobody else involved except the 6 of us that you see here before you. We felt it important to have a face with the name for everybody so that you guys could feel comfortable with that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to take the request under advisement and encourage the applicants to provide substantially more information than they have, before we take it up again.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just to echo what Mr. Conley said, and it's not just for this applicant or the previous applicant at our last meeting, but for anybody who's considering this, one of these licenses automatically makes the holder one of the biggest businesses in town. So we have a due diligence here and a responsibility to make sure that they're going to be a good corporate neighbor and contribute as much to the town as they're going to get out of it. So I just urge people to take this very seriously because we're going to consider this as seriously as the state will. But otherwise, good luck.
As we do feel that this is extremely important and that we understand what Clinton is going through, and we have been tenants in Clinton for 30 years. So we're not walking off the street, we're not new people. We know the town very well, we've been here, we're planning on staying here for as long as you'll have us. And so I do feel that we supersede maybe some other applicants that you're getting that are walking in off the street that don't know Clinton. We have been here. We know Tony Z, we know Denora, we know people here. We frequent the downtown, we support the town, we've been paying taxes in the town for 30 years, yet have no say in voting. So we do support all the good things that you guys have made those decisions for us. And we're happy to answer any questions that we can to ease your mind, that we will make this 100% as secure and efficient and low-key. You know, we do not want to advertise that this is what's happening, and try to use the best, you know, of the property that we possibly can with the situation that we've been given.
Any other comments from the board?
Well, without sounding like a broken record, but that's what I was going to say. More comprehensive business plan, you know, who's going to be working on the place. I think we need to see.
Yeah,
It
if you guys
says,
tell us
my
exactly
fellow
what
board
you're
members
looking
mentioned
for.
it's a
Right.
daunting task. This is something new, so it's new to us. There has to be a lot more input from the people who are applying for these licenses, so that's all I wanted to say.
When we get that, would we just come back to see you guys again at a future meeting?
I would suggest that you sit down with Michael
Okay.
and sort of get a more concrete idea of what we're looking for than, you know, we can provide here. And I would just say that I would not, if I were you, take the fact that we're taking this under advisement, if in fact we do vote to do that, as an indication that we are somehow opposed to this proposal. I mean, I know I am not. And the fact that this was the address where all that marijuana was grown, I mean, is certainly an indication that it's a place that a lot of marijuana can be grown. And it can be accomplished without the neighbors complaining.
Right.
I mean, and evidence from the fact that once it was in the papers that there was the bus, you got a lot of requests from people who wanted to get their own license and rent the building from you. So, I mean, my own feeling is that you had a bit of bad luck. I don't feel that you would be tainted by that. And we're just truly looking for some more comprehensive information with regards to some of the things that Bill and the other board members, and Michael can give you, I think, more concrete ideas of what we're talking about. And we would certainly take it up at the first meeting after you can get it to us and we can look at it. Yeah, we'd take it up as soon as possible after all that's done. Okay?
Thank you.
Any more discussion? There being none, all in favor of the motion to take this matter under advisement and to advise Emerald Growing, Inc. To sort of beef up their presentation and come back. All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion's carried. So thank you very much for your time, and we hope to see you again.
Thank you.
Take care.
Next item under on the agenda is a goals and objective discussion. Last meeting, we had a bit of a goals and objective discussion. Mr. Kerrigan in particular wished to discuss the issue of sort of milestones associated with objectives, and so if that's what we're here about today, we can go ahead. If not, we can continue in the discussion of last week.
Mr. Chairman, if, I mean, it's the board's pleasure. I brought the sheets that I am asked to use at work, and again, it doesn't apply to everything, but I know when I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna do every year, it helps if I have deadlines, and again, we talked about big goals, breaking them down into smaller goals. I had a subcommittee meeting last night. We were talking about some things that we want to move forward with and trying to pin down who's going to be responsible. So if this helps, I just wanted to make it an option. If it's something that the board doesn't want to consider, I'm fine with it, and I'll keep using it on my end, but I just wanted to make sure I was carrying my weight here, so.
Okay, so will you be distributing that to members
Sure.
of the board?
Who wants to take one?
And we could either discuss it tonight or put it off till next time. But, I mean, I would just, I have a few questions. And let me say that in my previous life, when I was working for a living, we not only worked with objectives, goals and objectives. Well, we would separate, it's a matter of terminology, but we would separate goals would be one thing and objectives would be other. So
Sure.
A goal might be to redo all the streets in the town of Clinton, and objectives would be such things as to do the survey, assemble the costs, and on and on and on. I'm very much in favor of that sort of thing. And I guess just perhaps to engender some discussion, or this can be put off till next time. Would you foresee, I would foresee that the various subcommittees that works on these goals would tackle these
Sure.
and develop the objectives to come back to the Board of Selectmen?
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
It's a tool, and again, just in my first year on the board, it's been eye-opening how slow some things move and yet how fast time goes by. And it's very easy to think, I'm going to make this kind of impact in the next year, and then all of a sudden town meeting rolls around, and I'm looking and saying, well, gosh, what did I do? So if sometimes we're all busy, we all have, real lives outside of this room, it just, for me, it helps if I know, well, what do I have to do this month, what do I have to do this week, and kind of chip away at it. So, yeah, I think if we're handing things down to subcommittees, I think that's sort of this in practice, where we're coming up with a big picture goal, handing it down to a smaller committee to work on it, and then we break it down there. So, again, I'm not looking to create any more work for anybody. I just, it's helpful for me at the end of the year if I can say, well, here's where I went from last year to now, and here's how I got there. So, again, I was just hoping to provide another tool. If it helps, if it does, great. If it doesn't, then we'll try something else.
Okay, any members of the board want to join in?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea. It's a good way to measure ourselves, and
Okay.
I don't think it hurts. I think it's going to help, so I have no problem with it.
Mr. Chairman, I would enthusiastically bring this to the subcommittees that I'm on and see if we can adapt this model or something like that to the way we're working. And I think it helps hold each one of us and the board accountable for the things we say we're going to do.
Okay.
So I support the idea.
Terrific.
Any other comments or discussion?
Just, I'd like to thank Sean for putting it together. And I put some time into it, so thank you, Selectman Kerrigan. Yeah.
Do we want to entertain a motion to recommend to the members of the board that they return to their subcommittees and begin working with the subcommittees around these issues?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second? Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? I would just like to thank Mr. Kerrigan for his efforts, and I think it's a great contribution to our process here. So the motion's made and seconded. We have had an opportunity for discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion's carried.
Thank you for your confidence, Mr. Chairman.
Administrative business, Nightlight closings request for September of 2018. What's the pleasure of the board?
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve late-night closings with subsequent closings to be approved by the chief. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion's carried. Fire Chief's monthly report for June of 2018. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the monthly report of the fire chief.
Second.
Motion is made to approve, or to accept and approve the monthly report of the fire chief for June of 2018. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just briefly, I know you brought up in June, I think, maybe looking at an effort to standardize department head
Yes.
reports. I don't know how we want to move forward that, or if it's something we're still interested in, but it rang a bell when I was looking over the
It
agenda
rang a
for
bell
tonight,
with
so.
me as I was reading it, and as I recall, myself and Michael volunteered to come up with a draft, and then summer struck.
It happens all,
So-
Mr. Chairman.
We will try to do that before the next
Okay.
meeting.
Will that subcommittee be utilizing the?
And no, it's not a
That's a
session.
perfect opportunity for this.
It's just a draft document. So we have been remiss, I have been remiss. Okay, so we've had a motion, it's been seconded. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, motion's carried. Old Home Days is requesting a one-day liquor license. That's for the Old Home Days for 9/7/18 and 9/8/18. What's the pleasure of the board?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to grant the Old Home Days Committee a one-day liquor license for 9/7/18 and 9/8/18. Clinton Turnverine's Pavilion is requesting a one-day liquor licenses. Clinton Turner's Pavilion, one-day liquor licenses. Okay, let me go to that.
Did we vote on the?
Clinton Turnverine is requesting
vote on
one-day
Old Home
liquor
Day?
licenses for events to be held at their public outdoor pavilion. Permit applications are enclosed. What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we accept them as a group.
Oh, okay.
Great.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to accept the request as a group. Is there any discussion?
Under discussion, Mr. Chairman, I thought we were going to look into the ability to grant them a seasonal license.
Yeah, we are reviewing that. It's, we don't know whether it would apply in this situation, but we'll make a final determination to let the board know, but I don't know if we can do that.
I think it would make things simpler for us, simpler for the applicants.
Two buildings.
It would, you know, we currently don't have seasonal license, nor do we have a seasonal population. In order to get seasonal license, you need to submit seasonal
Demographics.
census
To the
demographic
state and all
data
that.
to show on a yearly basis how many people you have and how many licenses and why you need additional licenses in your town. So,
It's a process.
so we're,
Yep. Yeah.
we're trying to figure it out.
Okay,
Been a motion.
yeah, so the motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. The Superintendent of Public Works has submitted water, sewer, trash abatements in the amount of $13,951.44 for the last billing cycle for action by the Board of Selectmen. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the water and sewer trash abatements.
Second.
Motion's been made to approve the water and sewer tax abatements. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, motion's carried. Next item on the agenda is old and new business. West Ledge Block Party request. Residents of the West Ledge Road neighborhood sent a letter requesting permission to hold a block dance on Saturday, September 1st from 2018, from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. And the letter is enclosed. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we grant the West Ledge block dance request.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. There any discussion?
Just under discussion, you know, I don't know if there's a provision on the application or if there should be one, I don't know if there isn't, but just to check with local public safety, check with police, that type of thing.
Okay.
I believe that they have.
Perfect.
That they have talked to the police chief, and he suggested that they
Come
send
here.
this letter to get permission to close the street from the selectmen.
Right. So they want to close the street for those.
Right, to close off that street for a couple hours for their neighborhood
Block
party,
dance,
so,
yeah.
but
How many
the
houses,
chief was okay with it, he was fine with it, I just want to make sure the selectmen were okay with it.
how many houses are up in that area?
Yeah, that's right.
Never really drive up there.
Maybe nine, there's a street. that
Cul-de-sac.
loops around, so I'm not sure if the whole neighborhood's gonna be closed, or just the loop.
Yeah.
Maybe just the loop, I'm not sure, but I think there may be 9 residences.
It's probably the top, I think that's probably what you're saying. It's probably-
Okay, with regard to the West Ledge block dance request, motion's been made and seconded to approve it. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion's carried. Downtown parking plan amendment, Community and Economic Development Director of Philadelphia is requesting that the Board of Selectmen consider amending the downtown parking plan to have 12-hour parking zone limits only enforced from Monday through Friday based on feedback at the public forum. The plan originally called for having the parking zones limit from Monday through Saturday, and a memo is enclosed. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the downtown park amendment.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Mr. Chair? Please. I just want to thank the people who came out to the public hearing and to stress that, as Mr. Duffy states in our background material, this is a major part of the plan. We took some feedback, we're making a change. If this change doesn't work, we can make another change. It's a flexible way to deal with this, the parking issue downtown, and I'm very excited to see this go into action.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make an observation that I don't know if it's coincidental or not, but this was the first night that in all the years that I've been coming to town hall that I couldn't find a parking spot. I had to cruise the block twice to find a parking spot. So I don't know if it's the parking plan or just unique conditions and circumstances tonight.
I think there's a
but-
lot of events going on in the summertime. I noticed the last couple times I've been out here, it's been busy. If it's
All right,
next
well-
door or-
I just wanted to make that observation.
Okay, so a motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And all opposed? Motion's carried. Next item on the agenda is the building inspector appointment proposal. The town administrator has offered the appointment of Mr. James Salmon to become the next building inspector in Clinton. Mr. Salmon is in the process of completing state certification for this position and can perform most of the functions of the job except for signing certificates of occupancy. Clinton Building Inspector Tony Zaharidis has offered a proposal to oversee the office on a consultant basis during the interim until Mr. Salmon receives state certification. The agreement with Mr. Zaharidis will terminate upon completion of the state requirements. And the proposal is enclosed, and I'll give Mr. Ward an opportunity to update us or...
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and just to kind of expand a little bit on that, just to go back to the process itself, we, as you know, we were having anticipated vacancy in the building inspector position. We advertised, we received 12 resumes for that position. I had, you know, as appointment through the town administrator, I had assembled a small search committee with some of the affected agencies that will be working on this position to kind of give me some guidance on that. I think that committee did a great job reviewing that process and sitting in on the interviews, looking at the 12 candidates. They narrowed that down in half to 6 for interview. Only 3 of those 6 ended up taking the interview. The others withdrew from the process at that time when they were contacted, and then there were the three for interview. So based on that, they gave me some of their feedback on those candidates. Based on that process, there were two candidates that I felt had warranted further review. I met with those two candidates at that time. One of those candidates had state certification at the initial level. As the board may know, in order to be a building official in Massachusetts in a municipality, you need to have state certification. There's two levels. One is at a local inspector, where you could start out in and you can go in and you can do the aspects of the job, but each community also needs a certification as inspector of buildings or building commissioner, which would then sign off on the certificate of occupancies or any of the other forms that are needed at that level. Clinton would require to have that level of certification. However, a local inspector, with the certification as local inspector, you can come in and get a provisional appointment as a inspector of buildings, and then it gives you 18 months to get that certification. But in that meantime, you can sign the COs and do all the paperwork. However, we were in a situation that in the pool of candidates that we had, there were only two people that had any state certification. One person did have the building inspector certification. He accepted a job at another department prior to us even being able to interview him. And the other gentleman had a local inspector certification, not the top one, but the initial one, in another community where he was working under a building commissioner. However, the pay rate at the community that he was at was far greater than what we are offering here in Clinton. So we were not able to meet his salary requirements. So that brought me to the next candidate who currently does not have a certification. However, he does have a construction supervisor license, which requires a state exam for that. So it also a history of working in the construction field. This person also worked for Clinton Housing Authority and got very strong positive reviews from the supervisors over there. So I feel this person certainly has the competency to do the job and to be able to handle all aspects of the office. However, we will need, until they go through that state certification process, we do need someone that will have to sign off on certificates of occupancy, and also to be the person who will kind of be the final say on different things. So with that, Mr. Zahariadis has agreed to work on a part-time consultant basis to help on that, whether it takes 1 month, 2 months, 3 months to finalize that process. He's willing to help out and oversee the office until this candidate is able to receive that final certification and be approved by the state to take over the office. And again, that will put it at a level where he then would have 18 months to get the top certification in order to keep the job. So, so the person, Mr. Salmon, would have some work to do, but I feel he's definitely experienced enough to handle the job and to up to the task of getting the requirements that he needs to. So tonight, in order to kind of finalize this process, I was looking to get some approval from the board if we're willing to kind of hire on that consultant in order to form this type of relationship in order to finalize the appointment to go forward. Otherwise, the only other option would be to re-advertise. However, there's becoming a shortage in the field right now based on the requirements of the state for the certification. There used to be, a few years ago, you used to be able to get the job without certification and then get certified as you were in the job. Now they require certification in order to to start the job, and not to start the job, because like I said, you can get the local inspector certification to do the job, but in order to get the top certification, you need to have passed that test. A few years back, you could sign off the COs and all the paperwork, even under the provisional. Now, they don't allow that to happen. So with that requirement, it has really kind of narrowed the pool of candidates. Also, with the economy going well, contractors are able to, realistically, they're making more money in the private sector than they are in government. And with the baby boom generation, a lot of people are leaving the workforce based on retirement. So the field of qualified building inspectors is getting very tight, and the communities that are the best payers, naturally, would be the communities that are attracting those candidates. So I think, in my opinion, it's just my feeling, I can't back that, but I think even if we re-advertised, I think based on our salary range after the last salary survey, in keeping with, they look at the industry, but also they look at our community, and they look at the hierarchy of what we're paying in our community. So that fit within all that parameters, that grade level fit for that position. But I think what we're paying at that beginning salary right now probably would not attract a top level certified building official, because there are other communities that are paying much higher. And we see that already with one of the candidates that's only on the entry level certification in another community that was in our pool, who was making substantially higher than what we're paying. So at this point, I think we have a quality candidate that I think could do the job. If we have that consultant help for a couple months, I think we can get where we need to be in order to perform the functions of that office. So, if it's something the board is open to, or just ask to maybe allow the solicitor and myself to go back and finalize this agreement with on this proposal, and also work with the prospective appointee and try to finalize all of the details, because with paying the employee salary and then a consulting salary, we only have certain money in the budget. We have to work within that budget, but it's just a temporary issue, and for a couple of months, and then there on end, it will just be the line item, the budget will be based on the salary grid of the personnel board going forward in the future. So this will just be a short-term cost. So.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I've got a couple of motions to make on the subject, but the first one would be to make a motion to authorize the town solicitor and the town administrator to negotiate an agreement with the former and current, I guess, building commissioner for the town of Clinton to oversee as needed the building department here until we're up and running 100%. That's my first motion.
I'll second.
All right, motion's been made and second to approve the request of the town administrator to enter into a contract with the former building inspector to oversee the office until Mr. Salmon receives state certification. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just want to make sure I was clear on this. We're talking, I'm hearing months out of you, but I'm reading years here. It seems like a 3-year deal that goes year to year.
I think Tony just put that down. That was kind of a standard proposal. He has done this arrangement in other communities. So I think it was a standard proposal that he put down. And he wanted to show good faith and offer that he would be willing to stay in the long term. And I do appreciate, and I thank Tony for what he's done. He's stayed on board here because we do have a busy office, a busy town, and we'd be at a standstill if we didn't have anyone. And he stayed on to take care of the office. He's running the office right now, so that has worked out really well for us. And I think he's just wanted to show that if it's going to be an extended period of time, whether it's short period of time or extended period of time, he's willing to do that. So I think that's some of the language that we wanted to talk with, have the solicitor myself talk with about how we should put that language, because it is just on a kind of a month-to-month basis. It's not for a year or 3-year period at this time that we can foresee.
Yeah, I just didn't want to I want to make sure if it was going to be if it's 13 months according to this, it'd be 2 years, so,
That document's gonna change.
fine.
It's really-
That's all I wanted to know.
It's really gonna be more month to month, because as soon as the new, as soon as Mr. Salmon gets
Yep.
this
Certification.
qualified, then we'll no longer need the former building inspector. And he knows that, so the language of that draft is gonna change.
That's all I needed. And Mike,
And we wouldn't, I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Chair, but we, and again, is just to follow up with what I was just saying, and, you know, Mr. Zarias has been great to help us with that, but, you know, if we didn't have him, we wouldn't be able to operate right now. You know, if we were in a pinch, the state would send a state inspector in, but they would charge us as well too. So it's not as though we're gonna get away for free, but if we don't have anyone, we can't do anything at all. And just seeing, you know, the activity that goes on in that office, you know, it has
constant.
been pretty, you know, again, with the economy and the size community and the demographic, or the type of community we have, it has been very active. So again, I just wanted to at least thank Tony for doing that for us. You know, what he's done in the past, what he's doing currently, and, you know, if we could work something out here, that he can stay on, but that's, I just needed to come tonight. We weren't able to, hoping at the last meeting that we could finalize this before this meeting because it was summer session. But based on all these criteria and factors that we're dealing with, we're still kind of in limbo with the appointments.
Mr. Chairman, just to avoid any confusion, I'm very thankful. I'm fully supportive of this process. I just want to, reading this, I want to be clear that we weren't paying for years if we only needed months. So I'm thrilled that Tony's being able to stay on and help us through this difficult time, and I'm looking forward to Mr. Salmon starting as soon as he
No,
can.
you're absolutely right, but as Mr. Gibbons said, it's a very valid question, exactly, because even looking at it too, it is something, you know, talking with Tony, you know, verbally, you know, the intent is that he would be on as
Yep.
needed, and that would go from there, but under the standard language that you see, you're absolutely right. So it's different.
Thanks for doing this.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to add something that I would hope that you would consider in your conversations with Mrs. Zahariadis, is that aside from the technical requirement of needing him to sign the C of O's until Mr. Salmon gets certified as a local inspector, there's also the guidance, input, and general knowledge that anyone stepping into the new job in Clinton would need. And I'd just like you to consider trying to maintain that part of the relationship with Mr. Zahariadis, so Mr. Salmon isn't out in the open with no support in 3 months. We might want to consider some per diem or something that would give him, I mean, the zoning questions that'll come up. I just think anyone stepping into that job should be able to have a resource that they can fall back on.
Okay. Thank you.
It's just something to consider in redrafting that and not limiting it too restrictively so that that isn't available.
You looking to put a timeline on that, Bill, like 6 months to a year type thing, like a retainer almost? Yeah.
As needed by the
Okay.
town administrator
Sure.
and the building inspector.
Okay, any other discussion on this proposal or this amendment, this motion?
Just under discussion real quick, I just want to thank Tony for staying on and helping out. I think we're very, extremely lucky to have him, as well as, Mr. Salmon. I've known him for many years. That's all he's done is build and construction trade. So I think we're fortunate to have him too. I think he's going to be a quick study, and I don't think really, you can quote me, I don't think we have anything to worry about. I think it's going to be a seamless, transition. And I think I'd like to thank them both because I really think Jimmy's going to do a good job for us.
Okay, any further discussion? There being none, all in favor of the motion to approve Mr. Ward's request?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion's carried. And Mr. Connolly, you said you were going to have another
I'd like to
motion.
make a second motion to, as I understand it, Mr. Salmon, even though he's been technically nominated for the position, is coming in, is developing knowledge of the office and interacting with applicants with Mr. Zahariadis, and I'd like to request that he actually be put on the payroll for that, and he can start immediately going out doing local inspections under the authority that he would have right now. Right now, we're paying somebody to do local inspections, whether it's Tony or the alternate. So it's not really a money thing, and if there isn't enough money in the appropriation, I think to get this done, I think we're gonna be faced with the fact that we gotta pay it one way or another. So if it's a transfer at the end of the year from the reserve fund to finalize this, that's what we may have to entertain, but we can't leave the town without a functioning building department. And Mrs. Zahariadis can't do it full-time for us with his other job. So I would encourage, the motion is to complete the appointment process for Mr. Salmon and see if there's a way that he can be paid for the time that he's already put in the office.
Second.
All right, motion's been made to put Mr. Salmon on the payroll immediately or as soon as possible, and to explore the possibility of retroactively paying him for work he has done prior to today. There any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, motion's carried. Okay. So, I mean, just to basically sum up, I mean, the reason that we had the difficulty with 12 people applying and being whittled down to 2 people willing to be interviewed, and then one of them backing out, is that the pay is low, relatively speaking. I mean, because there is the opinion of, I'm sure, a small minority of taxpayers that one way to riches is to get a town job. But the fact of the matter is quite the opposite, and I just wish to sort of emphasize that. Okay. Next item on the, under old and new business is the Clinton Old Home Days cash advance. Clinton Old Home Days Committee is requesting permission for a petty cash advance to have money for their ticket boxes to make change at the beginning of the event. The information is enclosed. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the request from the Old Home Days Committee in the amount that they requested.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to give permission for petty cash advance in the amount requested. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just under discussion, I would like to thank Mr. Bill McNally and Mrs. Merman. I believe I seen something on Facebook or something in the paper that they will be retiring from the Clinton Old Home Days. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Old Home Days are awesome for the town of Clinton. Great weekend and great spirit, collaboration of all the Clintonians and the surrounding towns coming together to Clinton. And I want to thank you, Mr. McNally and Mrs. Merman, for your service.
Here.
And I'm sure we all agree. And additionally, Mr. McNally and Ms. Merman are from the original group that started the Old Home Day around the time of the Sesquicentennial. That was the term? The Sesquicentennial. 150 years, which would have been in the year 2000. So they've been at it for almost 18 years now.
Right.
Yeah. So we greatly appreciate their efforts. But any further discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chair, if I could, the concern that we just had internally, it seems like a lot of money. So I think they've never asked for this before. I think what has happened is committee members have kind of used their own cash in the past to try to get the cash drawer started. So we understand, that's hard, but going from 0 to 1,400 seemed like a lot. So, based on just their calculation, they have 7 cash boxes around the event, and they needed $200 to get started. That, maybe if we could try this first time, maybe try $100 this year and see how that works.
Per cash box?
Per cash box. They have an event Friday night, which hopefully will generate some money for them for Saturday, so they might not need all that. But the concern is with having cash advance like this and a lot of cash floating around, not with the committee's been great, they put in the time, but their committee is small, so it comes to the day of, they have a lot of just the day of volunteers that just show up, and, you know, you're giving them kind of cash advances to work with.
Right.
You know, we're gonna need, and as part of the motion too, just like to see that, you know, that they follow, you know, the kind of controls and guidelines that the town accountant outlined. You know, we try to get a list of who had that cash box, you know, what person had it, who was responsible, that they turn in a turnover separate from the general collection, that a separate turnover is put back in to replenish that cash advance, and then they can do a general turnover for what they made, just trying to really get controls and segregate that cash that's going out. So this is our first time doing it. We haven't done it before on other events. We also, ironically, this year, the schools are asking for the same, for their athletic events and the football games, for the same thing. So we're trying to...
Are they asking us?
No, they're going-
asking the
they're going to
superintendent.
the school committee to, the superintendent and the school committee is going to take this up at their next meeting as well. So just internally with our financial officers, we just kind of wanted to see that there was a process in place, because then we anticipate come the Pops concert in December, that they'll probably ask for that as well too, because there was an inquiry in the past. We indicated it's something we hadn't done before, so, you know, they did it their own way. But now that we're setting the precedent, probably we'll probably be getting many more requests in the future for these type of events. So we just want to make sure that the board is supportive of us establishing a process, procedures for controls, and to ensure that the best we can, that cash that's going out to volunteers is being managed and maintained in a way that it's going to come back to us once they've completed the event. So.
Okay.
I agree with that.
There any further discussion?
Just under the discussion, my motion was to grant the request in the amount that the Old Home Day Committee had
Right.
requested. And
So we will need if we agree with Michael, we will need an amendment to the motion.
I'm hesitant to agree with Mike because, and this is I want to make it clear why I'm disagreeing.
Yeah.
The idea of reducing the request to something less than what they requested is arbitrary. We don't have, and I don't believe you or Diane has, a working knowledge of what they need in a cash drawer to get going. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't reduce it, but I think it should be less arbitrary than that we need to maybe inquire as to the legitimacy of their $200 in the drawer. I've worked in Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts collecting money and taking it out of one pocket and putting it in another pocket, and that kind of a process is very messy. And not being able to make change for people when they come, it gets hectic. You've got people that are volunteering and they're under pressure. They should have the ability to do the work. The idea that they're day of volunteers handling the money, it doesn't matter. By noontime, they're handling substantially more money than that. And if there's a question of integrity or sloppiness, it's still a lot of money. You're not changing that opportunities, whatever they are. So I'm more supportive of the request of the subcommittee. I am supportive of the management part of the procedures. It seems more than reasonable, but I would still support the request that was made.
Yeah, and that's understandable, and again, if the board's okay and comfortable with that, you know, we support the board's actions. It just, we wanted to bring our concerns forward because this is the first time we're doing it. So, you know, the only thought was if they hadn't asked before, they got by for, as Mr. Konsky indicated, all these years, 18 years, that maybe they could start small and then go up if need be. But certainly we can try it this way and see how it works out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an issue with the money per se, but I think we need to have some checks and balances there, an outline of who's working what cash register when, get a strong auditing process in place, because we want, like Michael says, we need that, obviously, that money coming back to us. So I do think we need that. So I would support that.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to amend the motion that I made to have it include the policies and procedures as outlined by the town administrator and the town accountant.
Second.
Is there a second for the amendment? Okay, so now we're talking about the amendment. Amendment has been made to include in this request a requirement that policies and procedures to be developed by the town administrator, I assume in cooperation with some of these people, be followed. Is there any discussion on that amendment? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And
Thank you.
opposed?
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And there was the point person on the committee is a woman that works at a bank, and then she understands all of that, so I think they'll be definitely good to work with. And all the committee, they're very good. They put in the dedicated effort, and, I don't want to put up hurdles for them because they're volunteers. But at the end of the day, it is a town committee that we're all responsible for. So that's all. That's it. Just wanted to kind of just express our thoughts on it.
Okay, so that
Thanks, Mike.
amendment has passed. We're now back to the amended motion to grant a petty cash advance of $1,400 to the Clinton Old Home Day Committee with policies and procedures for handling of that money to be developed. Continuing discussion on that motion. Is there any more? I'll go ahead.
Just maybe as a point of further thing, if this is going to be a continuing practice, maybe the financial officers can come up with some best practices or recommendations for moving forward so that people know when they ask, this is what you're going to get. Instead, in case someone comes for the Pops concert and says, we need, 500 per box. I don't know, it might just help us down the road if we can just say.
Just to see what's a reasonable
Yeah.
amount. Absolutely, that's
Yeah.
a good point. And we are, we do have some copies of petty cash policies from other towns, as well as it's, on our list to ask for when the DOR comes in to do our financial best practices. We were hoping that was going to get started this summer, but they're a little behind on that, so that should be starting soon as well too. But that's a good point. What do towns do? What's acceptable?
Yeah.
Is $200 in a cash box reasonable, or is that a lot? I don't know. To Mr. Conley's point, I don't know that. I don't have that experience, so.
And neither do I.
Yeah, right. So we'll work on that.
Great.
Thank you. Yep.
And I well, as a matter of a question, but I think I know the answer. That's a cash advance, so at the end of the Old Home Days, the town will be reimbursed that $1,400.
Absolutely.
So that money will be coming back to the town.
Exactly.
Okay. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor of the
Aye.
motion is aye, and all opposed. Motion's carried.
Thank you.
Next item under old and new business is the town administrator's contract. The town solicitor has completed a final draft of the document to extend the employment agreement of the town administrator.
So,
Mr. Gibbons?
yeah, Mr. Chair, so when we had talked about the negotiation of the town administrator's new contract, it's in your packet, the final draft version. Essentially, the only thing that's changed is really paragraph, other than the dates, is paragraph 3, which is the compensation, and that is where, the compensation will be tied into the cost of living for the other employees in the town, to be at least, 1.5% per year for the 3-year contract. So other than that, all the other terms and conditions of the current contract remain the same in this next 3-year contract.
So we'll be
Yeah, so
voting
if the,
on
bo-
that
so if the,
contract tonight?
if the board's inclined to, to vote on this tonight, that's fine. They can take a vote to approve the, the contract. This contract's effective, July 1st of 2019. It's a 3-year contract.
What's the pleasure of the board
Mr.
with
Chairman,
regard
I
to
make a
Mr. Ward's
motion to
contract?
approve the contract that we negotiated with the town administrator, making a note that the salary is in agreement with the salary study that we had done townwide.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the town administrator's contract. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion's carried.
Mr. Chair, if I could just pass this around for the, this is the contract, and each of them can just sign that.
Sure. Be happy to.
Next item under old and new business is Selectmen's Children's Holiday Party donation request. The Executive Assistant Joyce Coviciero is requesting a donation from the Civic Fund on behalf of the Selectmen's Children's Holiday Party. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion?
Just under discussion, I would like to thank Joyce for her work that she does and her, and everybody else, her family and stuff. They all come together at the, for the Selectmen's Christmas party, and it's a great event, and I want to thank Joyce.
I just want to clarify that the amount will be the same as last year.
Yes. Yes. Okay, motion's made and seconded.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Just to let people know, it's going to be on Saturday, November 24th, from 1 to 3 p.m. here at the Town Hall, so mark your calendars. It is a great day.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion's carried. The Old Home Days Committee has made a request for a donation. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve the request in the amount that was granted last year.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion's carried.
We'll give that,
Holiday.
do you want to give that one a plug too, Mr. Chairman? What's that, the 8th and the 9th? Is that
What?
when that is that the 8th and the 9th? It's 7th and 8th? Okay. Right here in Central Park. Another great weekend.
Right.
Plug away.
Holiday Pops Concert Donation Request. The Board of Selectmen received a request for donation from the Civic Fund towards the Holiday Pop Concert event for 2018. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
That is on
Saturday.
Saturday, December 8th, at 7 p.m. here at Town Hall.
Okay, any other discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion's carried. Paula Center donation request. The Board of Selectmen received a request for a donation from the Civic Fund toward the 5th Annual Polish Picnic that donated all proceeds from that event to the Paula Center in support of programs for people with disability. I would like to say that this item should have been on the agenda at the last meeting, which would have been before the Polish picnic, but as a result of an oversight on my part, it did not make it, so I would request that the board consider it and react favorably to it. I think it's a good cause and
Absolutely.
it's a good event. So what's the pleasure of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded.
What's the donation?
Yeah.
$200?
Okay.
200? What do you think? $200.
Sounds good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Committee reports. There any committee reports?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
The Marketing and Communications Subcommittee met again last night. Another terrific meeting. We got a great group of people who are really interested in plugging in. We're going to meet again in a month, but in the meantime, consider some of the things we talked about, focusing mostly on public relations, communication, and maybe dovetailing with the beautification subcommittee with trying to organize a cleanup day for the fall. But I'm very enthusiastic and very encouraged by the people who showed up and the input we got.
Okay. Any other committee reports?
It's not really a committee report, Mr. Chairman, but I'd like to see if we can schedule a government affairs subcommittee meeting to go over our goals and objectives and have a document ready for the Selectmen's review.
Okay. And committee reports, the Downtown Revitalization Committee. We haven't met so far this summer, but we did have the public hearing on the parking And I also want to report that, related to that, the legislation that enables the town of Clinton to spend money from the landfill, the excess of the landfill enterprise account did pass the legislature. It was amended from what we requested them, and they put in there a requirement, correct me if I'm wrong, if I miss anything, Michael, that we get that approved by a bylaw at town meeting, which I think is not an unreasonable amendment. So I just wanted to notify the board of that. And is that about it, right, Michael?
Exactly, you're right, Mr. Chair, it gives the authorization to put the landfill money in that infrastructure account, but they wanted to see the town establish an ordinance. We tried to do that by language, by saying, allow the selectmen to transfer the money for programs as determined by the Board of Selectmen, but they'd like to kind of see that comprehensive into a bylaw that outlines procedures of, what projects and how it's spent or how it's accessed, that type of thing.
So we'll be trying to develop that bylaw and acting on it at a later date. Any other committee reports? There being none, it appears that concludes the agenda for this evening.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Motions to adjourn and seconded. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion's carried. The meeting is adjourned.